mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. But they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. Swiftly, I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious benign. All the mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. Swiftly, I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious benign. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, and experience happiness and separate from suffering. And swiftly, I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious benign. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now till the sun tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. We take refuge in the kind root Lama, the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Idams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Idams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Idams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Till I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind, progress in the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed in the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the mere generosity and other devotees maintained by for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the mere generosity and other good deeds, may now obtain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the mere generosity and other good deeds, may obtain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow, with the rest of equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow, with the rest of equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow, but they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're talking about the King of Aspiration prayers, and I'm reciting this every day. And the other day, as I was doing this, the thought occurred to me, what is Buddha? And what does 9, 10 people that I'm looking at right now, what does everybody think about what Buddha is? So I thought it was worthwhile to take a few minutes and think about it myself and write down something. So I'd like to share it with you, so there are some classic definitions of what Buddha is, but I think to be able to give it a texture of what somebody like myself thinks about it, and then open it up for a discussion, I think is a healthy thing to do. So Buddha in the classic definition is the awakened one. So, and then there's the Buddha that we talk about, the Buddha of the three kayas, the Buddha of the Dharmakaya, the Buddha of the Sambhogakaya, and the Buddha of the Nirmanakaya. So to be able to put all that into perspective, what is Buddha? So the Buddhas are the classic definition, the awakened ones, and they are humans who have been on the path, who are liberated from the bonds of their ignorance, of their greed, their attachments, their aversions, their jealousies, and so on. They're beings who have liberated themselves from any of those attachments, from any of those afflictions of the emotions that we call the kleshas. Those afflictive emotions are called the kleshas. All those 84,000 myriad combinations of those 5 basic poisons are called our kleshas, the afflictive emotions. And it's also the obscuration of wisdom, obscuration of non-conceptual, and by trying to conceptualize the non-conceptual, we enter into what we think are things like peace and bliss and so on, which are good indicators, but they are not necessarily, the totality of what it is to be Buddha. So the emotions, being the afflictive emotions, being free of the afflictive emotions, and being free of any wisdom attachments. So those whose wisdom is beyond selfishness and all pride. So we can say that these Buddhas who have been human beings, that they have liberated themselves to the point that they're beyond any kind of selfishness. And as they would begin to actualize their ability, their body, speech, and mind, they're doing it with complete selfishness, that everything they do is for the benefit of all beings. So as we're thinking about this, we should be thinking about ourselves, well, we want to be Buddha, so to what degree am I being successful? Am I working on these things? Am I aware of these things? So the sole purpose is to demonstrate the awakened one, the qualities of the awakened one. Their sole purpose is to demonstrate that, to be a symbol of that. So like the classic symbol of seeing the Buddha sitting on a pedestal and in the classic meditation position is speaking to that awareness, but this peacefulness in this awareness. So its sole purpose is that when we say the primal cause of the Buddha is the cause to be able to radiate that, to be the luminance of that. So the sole purpose is to demonstrate awareness to beings who are caught in their own traps of temporary happiness and suffering. So as we are progressing along the path, we get caught in these traps. We get caught in these ideas and these concepts of what we think Buddha is. And we try and conceptualize that and use that as a guide. It's good for a certain level, but at some point we have to let that go. So they are, as as who began, they are as who began, just like us, mortal beings lost in space. So I thought that was an interesting thing. They are who as they began, just like us, mortal beings lost in space. So, but then they put themselves on a path through their devotion to being able to come to the aid of all beings and so on. That became a prime motivation for them to be able to liberate themselves, to be able to find themselves, to be able to recognize what space is, and to found a light within themselves to illuminate all unknowing omniscience, to illuminate all unknowing, to illuminate all unknowing. So if the unknowing is like darkness, that what they have awakened within themselves is omniscience and omniscience, all knowing. Science, psi is a Greek word that means to know. So omni means all. So omniscience, all knowing, be able to see all things as it all is, and so on. So as we are developing our practices and so on, we should be having, time to time, thoughts about this, glimpses of this, and be able to allow ourselves to rest in this. If we're having that kind of an epiphany, we shouldn't blast through it. We should let ourselves abide in that and feel that and see what that means, and maybe write down these things for yourself and everything, because these are things that have meant to me what Buddha is. And maybe if I asked each one of you, you would have different things to say about that. So in other philosophy, Buddha is the Tao. The Tao Te Ching, if you're familiar with that, the Tao is the way. The translation of that is the way. And the Buddha is that, the way that we be able to transcend our humanness, our human nature, into something that is beyond comprehension. And it is inexplicable to our ordinary minds. It is just, it is all here just now, all this just here at once. So there's no other place. Every place is here, and there's no time, just the time of now. So when we talk about this, we talk about the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya is the truth body, where we say the truth body of the Buddha. So this truth body is this all-knowing, all-omniscient one who is beyond words, beyond conceptualization, totally at peace, like Vajradhara. Vajradhara is the exemplar of that. So pure, unborn, not contaminated by any kind of thoughts, any kind of confusions or anything like that. So the Dharmakaya, the essence of the Dharmakaya would be like Samantabhadra or Vajradhara. And the Sambhogagaya now is that wisdom of the Dharmakaya that now kind of makes itself known for the benefit of ordinary beings, that it kind of coalesces into light. Because before that, in the Dharmakaya, it's beyond any kind of light. It's just clear light, if you can use that expression. But in order for ordinary beings to understand that, it then manifests now into different colored light, into different types of forms and so on, the different meditation Buddhas. And this is the Sambhogagaya. So these have form, the forms that we give them, but they are desireless. They have no desire at all. The Dharmakaya Buddha has no desire, has no form. The Sambhogagaya has form, but no desire. But it's there to be able to, and this was part of the genius of Buddha Shakyamuni, to be able to go into meditation, to go into samadhi, and be able to channel these Sambhogaya meditation deities and be able to speak in that voice, so to speak, so that others could understand, could hear what was being said and what they were representing. As he did that, he was taking the form of Nirmanakaya. The Nirmanakaya is the emanation body of the Buddha. The Sambhogaya is the subtle enjoyment body. The Nirmanakaya is the emanation body. So this is when that energy or that essence of the Dharmakaya then manifests now into a form, into a human form, into a desire form, something that we all can see, hear, touch, and feel, and so on like that. And in order that beings would be able to recognize a pathway, the way to enlightenment. So the Nirmanakaya is that emanation body. So human beings, if we were left to our own devices, as the same as Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, before he became Buddha, he had the ability, he had the karma, he had the ability to be able to singularly be able to liberate himself, to find self-realization. We could do that too, but what it might take for us to do that would be many, many, many lifetimes. So the Buddha is there to help us to be able to recognize what those changes are so that we can see that through a living Buddha, through a living body. And that's what Shakyamuni Buddha became. So we may have Buddhas with us now. It's said many times that Garchen Rinpoche is a living Buddha. And there are other beings who might be living Buddhas that we can see as exemplars and pattern ourselves after and listen to them. The thing that would be the most important hallmarks of being able for us to say, oh, this is a Buddha, this is a living Buddha, is how much bodhicitta, how do they exude bodhicitta? What is the radiance of bodhicitta, the luminance of bodhicitta? To be able to see that loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, unfailing. So this is what I put together for Buddha. Does anybody else have something that you'd like to add to what you consider to be Buddha? What do you think of Buddha?
I have difficulty with all of the words, not your words, but in general, the descriptive words, because in the end, we're told it's the ineffable, it's the indescribable. And so for me, all those words result in confusion, in confliction. It's like, it's this and it's that and it's something else. But then in the end, it's none of those things. So it just, the words are a quagmire for me.
Have you experienced those words yourself?
Well, in terms, for example, of the Buddha having many lifetimes, no, I haven't experienced that. That seems, in a way, a bit of a fairy
No,
tale.
what I mean is, excuse me, what I mean is that and you're trying to understand what Buddha is, did you use words like that? Or you never had to do that?
You mean like ineffable?
Well, that's a word that says we can't describe it with words.
It's inexpressible.
And yet all the texts are words.
Okay. Anybody else have a thought about this? Michael?
Yeah, I agree with Thomas. I think all of this language keeps us grounded on the planet, grounded in samsara, and the best that it can do. And I think it's I think it's wonderful that words can do this, is allow us to, as they say, point to the moon. You can't touch the moon, you can't get the moon. We're not even sure it's there, but if
With the hands.
but our arm can point to the moon. That is, if we have a stable, a reliable arm and finger. And with all of these words, we don't. We're looking all over the place for the Buddha, and we're never going to see or grasp. So,
Okay.
as you say, it's all about experience. So, we can experience the Buddha.
Okay. Anybody else have a thought about this?
Yeah.
Okay. William?
Well, I have to ask the question, is this the physical Buddha, or is this the Buddha that is on one of these other astral planes? Because you're talking about two different directions you can go with that, I think.
Well, in my mind, it was, reading the King of Prayers every day, and is making constant reference to the Buddha. So it just begged the question in my mind, well, how do we define the Buddha? What is the Buddha? And it's telling us that we need to recognize ourselves as Buddha. We need to put ourselves on a aspiration path to become a bodhisattva in order to become a Buddha. So to me, the exercise was to be able to say, okay, well, if I think I'm going to be Buddha or anybody else is, what does that mean to me? In terms that I can understand, or do I just keep it very ethereal and not put words to it at all?
Lance, I experienced the Buddha not as a being, and I experienced that in doing this King of Aspiration prayer when we went into our meditation room and chanted it, is peace, love, joy, happiness, compassion. That's the feeling that I got from the whole thing, and it just was very, very fulfilling.
Okay.
Well, now, here's the thing. Do you want to see the Buddha, or do you want to be the Buddha? If you want to be the Buddha, and you want to bring all of that things that the Buddha represents into your daily life, or you can see the Buddha sitting on his little lotus flower. So it's to me, being a bodhisattva or getting bodhicitta is getting the essence of the Buddha's being, his way of living life, and bringing that within me, and living my life like as if he were here and doing it.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment?
I think if I had to put a label or a definition of what a Buddha is, I don't know if you can see this. Do you see that behind me?
Yeah.
Circle. A simple circle. No beginning, no end. Unceasing. That is our primordial nature. These words right here, they ask, what is life? It's being empathetic to all humans once we have enlightened, and is to help all humans or sentient beings recognize their true nature. And the aspiration of the good act, the aspiration to good action throughout the reach and range of the entire universe. I shall pacify completely the suffering of all the lower realms. I shall lead all beings to happiness and work for the ultimate benefit of each and every one. For lack of a better word, or to really explain or put a label on something that can't be labeled, that's what I think of the Buddha.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have something to say?
Can I add some things or feelings?
Okay,
Each of us has, and I don't know, I think you mentioned the heart mind. Heart mind, I think you mentioned. And within our heart, there's a piece there, something there that I don't imagine science lives up to, but part of that is Buddha within your heart. And if I'm to be a bodhisattva or any of that nature, I'm going to have to listen to that, feel from that, and take in that whole experience. It's not something or somebody else out there. It's something and somebody else in here that is guiding me, allowing me to have the experiences and have the recognition of the experiences that the people that are wise, the wisdom, which includes the Buddha.
okay, thank you. Does anybody else have anything?
Well, I've listened to some Nyingma Kenshin, and he repeats this through many talks. He says, one, don't get caught up in the beautiful words. He doesn't deny that the words are beautiful. He said, don't get caught up in that. So that suggests to me something beyond words. And then he says another very important thing is we want to end our samsaric life. So for me, it seems those are the two guideposts.
Okay. Anybody else? So the point I'm trying to make here is about contemplating this, thinking about this, to the point of exhaustion, to looking at all the possibilities, and then being able to prepare oneself for this King of Aspiration prayers, to be on that path, to be able to follow what Samantabhadra in this case has to say about this and so on.
So I would say just yesterday, Kempo Norgay gave a talk on the thoughts to contemplate at death or just before death. And he said, our main issue is attachment. He didn't speak about anger and ignorance, didn't ignore those, but he said the main issue is attachment. And what is the main thing that we're attached to? We're attached to this life. We're attached to our very life. Nobody, maybe some person has a desire to die, but I'd say that for most people, that's not a common. The common thing is we desire to live. Maybe to live forever, but certainly not to die. Because dying, practically speaking, that's the end of us. We can talk about, well, it's only the body as a shell that dies. But even with that, that's the end of us as we presently know ourselves. So that's the biggest attachment of all. So he said at the moment of death, we should willingly go. We should be glad that we're going, because that's the end of samsara for us. Letting go. But we can't let go because we're attached. So I think about that a lot.
Okay. So let's get into the King of Prayers. So let's go through and recite this. And what I've been doing is keeping notes about who's been reciting what pages so that we all get an opportunity to, read a part of it. And I hope everybody is reading this on their own during the week in between our Monday night sessions here to really understand this, to begin to understand it, to begin to get to know it and so on. So with that in mind, I'd like to start with the reading of this. So on page 1, so John, can you read page 1 tonight?
Okay.
All right. And then Adrian, will you read page 2? And then Rebecca, will you read page 3, please? And then Bhavani, will you read page 4, please? And William, will you read page 5? And then Michael, read page 6. And then Katie, read page 7. And then page 8 would be Grant. And page 9 would be Curtis. So Thomas has asked that he's has trouble with his eyesight and reading. So unless Thomas, you now feel like you want to read something, that's why I didn't call on you for this today.
Thank you very much. Just for the general knowledge, I have glaucoma and macular degeneration, and it just makes it very difficult to read.
Okay. Well, we knew. Okay. Thank you. All right. So if everybody is agreeable, then we'll proceed. And please read with some conviction, read with slowly so that everybody can kind of absorb this as you're reading, and you yourself can absorb this. We don't have any time constraint, we can take our time with this. And so do not read the blue points, the outline points. Just read the root text, please, so that we get the flavor of the root text. And when we engage in the study of this, then we employ the outline to help us focus on where we are within the prayer of aspiration. So, John, when you're ready, will you please begin?
King of Aspiration Prayers, Samantabhadra's aspiration of good actions, Dzangche Monlam, from the Gandavyuha chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra. Homage to Manjushri, the youthful. To all the Buddhas, the lions of the human race, in all directions of the universe, through past and present and future, to every single one of you, I bow in homage. Devotion fills my body, speech, and mind. Through the power of this prayer, aspiring to good action, all the victorious ones appear, vivid here before my mind. And I multiply my body as many times as atoms in the universe, each one bowing in prostration to all the Buddhas. In every atom preside as many Buddhas as there are atoms, and around them all their Bodhisattva heirs. And so I imagine them filling completely the entire space of reality, saluting them with an endless ocean of praise, with the sounds of an ocean of different melodies. I sing of the Buddha's noble qualities and praise all those who have gone to perfect bliss. In every Buddha, I make offerings. To every Buddha, I make offerings of the loveliest flowers, of beautiful garlands, of music and perfumed ointments, the best of parasols, the brightest lamps, and finest incense. To every Buddha, I make offerings, exquisite garments, and the most fragrant scents, powdered incense heaped as high as Mount Meru, arranged in perfect symmetry. Then the vast and unsurpassable offerings, inspired by my devotion to all the Buddhas and moved by the power in my faith in good actions, I prostrate and offer to all you victorious ones.
Whatever negative acts I have committed, while driven by desire, hatred, and ignorance, with my body, my speech, and also with my mind, before you I confess and purify each and every one. With a heart full of delight, I rejoice at all the merits, O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Pratika Buddhas, those in training and the Arhats beyond training, and every living being throughout the entire universe. You who are like beacons of light shining through the world, who pass through the stages of enlightenment to attain Buddhahood, freedom from all. I exhort you, all of you protectors, turn the unsurpassable wheel of Dharma. Joining my palms together, I pray to you who intend to pass into Nirvana, remain for eons, as many as the atoms in the world, and bring well-being and happiness to all beings. What little virtue I have gathered through my homage, through offering, confession, and rejoicing, through exhortation and prayer, all of it I dedicate to the enlightenment of all beings. Let offerings be made to Buddhas of the past, and all who now dwell throughout the 10 directions of this universe. Let all who are yet to come swiftly fulfill their wishes and attain the stages of enlightenment and Buddhahood. Let as many worlds as there are in all the 10 directions transform into realms that are vast and utterly pure, filled with Buddhas who have set before the mighty Bodhi tree. Around them, all their Bodhisattva sons and daughters. Let as many sentient beings as there are in all of the 10 directions live always and forever in happiness and health. Let all beings meet the Dharma that befits them best. And so many all they hope to be fulfilled.
As I practice the training for enlightenment, may I recall all my previous births, and in successive lives, through death and rebirth, may I always renounce the worldly life. Training in the footsteps of all the victorious Buddhas, may I bring good actions to perfection, and my moral conduct be taintless and pure, never lapsing, and always free from fault. In the language of the gods, Nagas, and Yaksas, in the language of demons and of humans too, in however many kinds of speech there may be, I shall proclaim the Dharma in the language of all. Taming my mind and striving in the paramitas, I will never forget the bodhicitta. May all my harmful actions and the obscurations they cause be completely purified, every single one. May I be freed from karma, harmful emotions, and the work of negativity, and act for all beings in the world, just like the lotus flower to which mud and water cannot cling, or sun and moon that course unhindered through the sky. Throughout the reach and range of the entire universe, I shall pacify completely the suffering of all the lower realms. I shall lead all beings to happiness and work for the ultimate benefit of each and every one. I shall bring enlightened action to perfection, serve beings as to suit their needs, teach them to accomplish good actions, and to continue this throughout all the eons to come. May I always meet and be accompanied by those whose actions accord with mine, and in body, speech, and mind as well. May our actions and aspirations always be one.
May I always meet spiritual friends who long to be of true help to me and who teach me the good actions. Never will I disappoint them. May I always behold the Buddhas here before my eyes, and around them all their bodhisattva sons and daughters, without ever tiring, throughout all the eons to come. May the offerings I make them be endless and vast. May I maintain the sacred teachings of the Buddhas and cause enlightened action to appear. May I train to perfection in good actions and practice these in every age to come. As I wander through all states of samsaric existence, may I gather inexhaustible merit and wisdom, and so become an inexhaustible treasury of noble qualities, of skill and discernment, samadhi and liberation. In a single atom, may I see as many pure realms as atoms in the universe, and in each realm, Buddhas beyond all imagining, encircled by all their bodhisattva heirs. Along with them, may I perform the actions of enlightenment. And so in every direction, everywhere, even on the tip of a hair, may I see an ocean of Buddhas, all to come in past, present, and future, in an ocean of pure realms, and throughout an ocean of eons, may I enter into enlightened action in each and every one. Each single word of a Buddha speech, that voice with its ocean of qualities, bears all the purity of the speech of all the Buddhas, sounds that harmonize with the minds of all living beings. May I always be engaged with the speech of the Buddhas.
With all the power of my mind, may I hear and realize the inexhaustible melody of the teachings spoken by all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future as they turn the wheels of Dharma. Just as the wisdom of the Buddhas penetrates all future eons, so may I too know them instantly. And in each fraction of an instant, may I know all that will ever be in past, present, and future. In an instant, may I behold all those who are the lions of the human race, the Buddhas of past, present, and future. May I always be engaged in the Buddha's way of life and action. Through the power of liberation, where all is realized as like an illusion. On a single atom, may I actually bring about the entire array of pure realms of past, present, and future, and then enter into those pure Buddha realms in each atom and in each and every direction. When those who illuminate the world still to come gradually attain Buddhahood, turn the wheel of Dharma, and demonstrate the final profound peace of nirvana, may I be always in their presence through the power of swift miracles, the power of the vehicle like a doorway, the power of conduct that possesses all virtuous qualities, the power of loving kindness, all pervasive, the power of merit that is totally virtuous, the power of wisdom free from attachment, and the power of knowledge, skillful means, and samadhi. May I perfectly accomplish the power of enlightenment.
May I purify the power of karma, destroy the power of harmful emotions, render negativity utterly powerless, and perfect the power of good actions. I shall purify oceans of realms, liberate oceans of sentient beings, understand oceans of Dharma, realize oceans of wisdom, perfect oceans of actions, fulfill oceans of aspirations, serve oceans of Buddhas, and perform these without ever growing weary through oceans of eons. All the Buddhas throughout the whole of time attained enlightenment through good actions, and their prayers and aspirations for enlightened action, may I fulfill them all completely. The eldest of the sons of all Buddhas is called Samantabhadra, all good. So that I may act with a skill like his, I dedicate fully all these merits to purify my body, my speech, and my mind as well, to purify my actions and all realms. May I be the equal of Samantabhadra in his skill, in good dedication. In order to perform the full virtue of good actions, I shall act according to Manjushri's prayer of aspiration. And without ever growing weary in all the eons to come, I shall perfectly fulfill every one of his aims.
Let my bodhisattva acts be beyond measure. Let my enlightened qualities be measureless too. Keeping to this immeasurable activity, may I accomplish all the miraculous powers of enlightenment. Sentient beings are as limitless as the boundless expanse of space. So shall my prayers of aspiration for them be as limitless as their karma and harmful emotions. Whoever hears this king of dedication prayers and yearns for supreme enlightenment, who even once arouses faith, will gain true merit greater still than by offering the victorious Buddhas, infinite pure realms in every direction, all adorned, all ornamented with jewels. or offering them all the highest joys of gods and humans. For as many eons as there are atoms in those realms, whosoever truly makes this aspiration to good actions will never again be reborn in lower realms. They will be free from harmful companions and soon behold the Buddha of boundless light. They will acquire all kinds of benefits and live in happiness. Even in this present life, all will go well. And before long, they will become just like Samantabhadra. All negative acts, even the 5 of immediate retribution, whatever they have committed in the grip of ignorance, will soon be completely purified if they recite this aspiration of good actions. They will possess perfect wisdom. They will possess perfect wisdom, beauty, and excellent signs, be born in a good family, and with a radiant appearance. Demons and heretics will never harm them, and all 3 worlds will honor them with honor.
They will quickly go beneath the Bodhi tree, and there they will sit to benefit all sentient beings, then awaken into enlightenment, turn the wheel of Dharma, and tame Mara with all his hordes. The full result of keeping, teaching, or reading the prayer of aspirations of good actions is known to the Buddhas alone. Have no doubt, supreme enlightenment will be yours. Just as the Bodhisattva Manjari attained omniscience in Samantabhadra too, all these merits now I dedicate to train and follow in their footsteps. As all the victorious Buddhas of past, present, and future praise dedication as supreme, so now I dedicate all these roots of virtue for all beings to perfect good actions. When it is time for me to die, let all that obscures me fade away. So I look at Amitabha there in person and go at once to his pure land of Sukhavati. In that pure land, may I actualize every single one of all these aspirations. May I fulfill them, each and every one, and bring help to beings for as long as the universe remains. Born there in a beautiful lotus flower, in that excellent and joyous Buddha realm, may the Buddha Amitabha himself grant me the prophecy foretelling my enlightenment.
Having received the prophecy there, with my billions of emancipations sent out through the power of my mind, may I bring enormous benefit to sentient beings in all the 10 directions. Through whatever small virtues I have gained by reciting this aspiration of good actions, may the virtuous wishes of all beings' prayers and aspirations all be instantly accomplished. Through the true and boundless merit attained by dedicating this aspiration of good actions, may all those now drowning in the ocean of suffering reach the supreme realm of Amitabha. May this king of aspirations bring about the supreme aim and benefit of all infinite sentient beings. May they perfect what is described in this holy prayer uttered by Samantabhadra. May the lower realms be entirely emptied. By the blessings of the Buddhas who have attained the 3 kayas and the unchanging truth of reality, as well as the unwavering aspirations of the Sangha, may all the aspirations and dedication prayers be fulfilled.
Very good. Thank you all. Anybody have any questions or comments about any of this? Yes, Rebecca.
On page 8, there's the reference to looking at Amitabha and going to Sukhavati.
Yes.
What's that?
Sukhavati is the Pure Land of Buddha Amitabha. Buddha Amitabha is one of the 5 wisdom Buddhas, one of the meditational Buddhas. And his Pure Land is called Dewachen. His wisdom is the wisdom of discriminating awareness. So this is something that we aspire to, something that we work for, to be able to attain this wisdom of discriminating awareness. So very literally, meaning that we will choose what it is that we have to pay attention to. Many things we don't need to pay attention to at all. Some we need to pay attention to sometime, and some things we need to pay attention to all the time, and maybe right now, and so on. So that's what that represents. So in Sukhavati is being in that Pure Land of being boundless light, because that wisdom is a boundless flow of wisdom, a boundless light of wisdom. And that's what that represents.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then where we left off last time was on page 3 at the bottom, where it says number 6, aspiration to accompany other bodhisattvas. So it says, may I always meet and be accompanied by those whose actions accord with mine and embody speech and mind as well. May our actions and aspirations always be one. So maybe saying that, you know, I could very easily say, well, I've got my 10 friends here right now, and I'd be just very happy to be with these 10 friends, these 10 brothers and sisters for the rest of my time here on earth, because we're all interested in the same thing. We're all trying to develop the same thing. We're all on the same path. And wouldn't that be wonderful? And we should look for, maybe there's some more beings than these 10 right now. Maybe there's, you know, every day we meet somebody else that we want to be with. At the same time, but not what's being said here, are those that we meet that we might not like. And anytime I read this, I always think of a couple things that a couple of us have said. What about when we're having that dinner with the family? And the family is there, and there's all these different points of view, and all these different things are flying around. How do we deal with that? Do we eliminate it from our life by saying, I'm not going to partake of those family gatherings? Is that the right path? Do I go there with the expectation of them trying to persuade me to change my mind? Or do I go there with the expectation of me trying to change their mind? And does that dynamic set up for what might be a miserable 2 or 3 or 4 hours that I got to spend with all these people that I don't really want to be with? So the answer to this really is tolerance. And we have to look at time as something that is temporary. We have to look at the place as something that is universal, and that what we are there to do is to be ourselves. And if ourselves is the enlightened mind, is bodhicitta, then it doesn't matter how long we're there. It doesn't matter where we are. And it doesn't matter if these people have different points of view. What changes is my interaction with that. Do I feel compelled that I have to be involved in every conversation? Or can I just let those conversations go? They're going around between themselves, and I can go about my business. And if I have to sit by myself quietly, then that's fine too. But if I'm asked to comment on something, then I may have a statement that I want to make, but I make my statement and I kind of get out with no expectation of what somebody else might say. So the point here is that when we're not with those that we love, when we're not with the ones who we'd like to be with, who think like we do, that we have to deal with them in a way of tolerance and recognize, use the wisdom of discriminating wisdom or awareness, the wisdom of discriminating awareness, like Amitabha, this boundless light, to know when we can interject something in the conversation and when we should not interject something into the conversation. So what do you think about that?
Why
I think
are you
that's
with,
tolerance.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
why are you with somebody that you don't want to be with?
Well, say it's a family thing, you know, and the family gets together and, you know, we're not at a point where we're going to, you know, cut ourselves off from the rest of the family. And there's holidays, there's birthdays, there's, you know, religious things that we might be part of, you know, and we're not
That's all.
prepared to do that.
That's all part of that attachment stuff.
So, but the key to it is what do you, the key to
cutting
it
the
being in that midst, what do you think the key to it is?
Well, I just said, cut the attachment.
So you just say, oh, I'm not going to go.
No, when you go, if you're involved in some emotional back and forth, you haven't cut the attachment.
Okay. So you can go, but not be attached is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment?
Comments?
Who is that? Adrian?
And me next.
Okay.
Okay. I guess from what you were saying, tolerance was a combination of wisdom and patience, a discriminative awareness and patience. My other comment was that I think it is very necessary to be accompanied by others sometimes that are not of the same actions or you know, they're not necessarily in accord with you. And I think personally, I think what that does is that exposes the faults of your practice. If you feel either attachment or aversion, you know, those are the things that you need to work on. Those things will not come up, they'll not surface easily when you are accompanied by those who like you, who have the same opinions as you, but they will be easily exposed by those who are like, no, we don't agree here. You know, that's when you're kind of like going, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, do I stay? Do I leave? What are the emotions that are bubbling up? Yeah, that's my comment there.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
I think this is time for the practices of loving kindness and compassion, and for the practice of seeing the Buddha in all beings. And I'm not sure because we don't do family get-togethers in my family, so I don't have a lot of experience with that.
Well, it could go, you know, to be in a workplace, you know, that you're working with people who are not like you, but yet you spend most of your day, you know, every day with these people. And you might rather be with your 10 Dharma friends rather than being with them, you know, but yet you have to deal with those people that you work with that don't think like you do.
Yeah.
So the principle exists in that situation too.
Mhm.
We looked at
Okay.
Miller, and Miller Rape wound up going to the cave.
Okay. Anybody else got a thought?
not to the family dinner.
Okay. Rebecca, you have anything? Because I think of you, because you mentioned this a number of times, and I've certainly been in that family dynamic myself any number of times. So I commiserate with that situation. And so I don't know, we've talked about this before, but I don't know that we ever answered it really succinctly. And maybe this is a better way to answer it, or at least to talk about it. What do you think?
I think that the way that you put it just a few minutes ago was well said, right? I don't have an obligation to be attached to anybody being a particular way when I am with people who are quarrelsome, right? I guess the issue that I run into is there somewhere on the spectrum of I want to give to this person, and I want to be a contribution to their life. To really, this person has to be somebody else's problem because they are too much for me to handle. There is a point at which one makes, I think, a wise decision to let someone who is better equipped deal with that person and step away for one's own well-being. And it's not, it's not just a difference of opinion type situation. It is a targeted abuse situation. And so somewhere on the spectrum, one has to say, I love this person, I wish them well, and I don't need to subject myself to that. And being able to tolerate it, to subjecting yourself to attack, is kind of the spectrum that I'm dealing with. And so what I'm working on is being able to sort of just be there and let them do what they do. But I can't help but think that there is a part of wisdom that says, if you know someone's going to stab you in the eye with a fork every time you walk into their house, one day the wise choice is to not walk into their house.
Yeah, well, all that makes sense. And, I think, the thing that we always want to be able to apply is bodhicitta. If we are enlightened ones, to apply the loving kindness, the compassion, the joy, and the equanimity. So the wisdom part is that wisdom of discriminating awareness, knowing that you're going into the lion's den, so to speak, and whether or not you should go at all or something like that, to have that kind of wisdom. But one of the things that I've learned is one of the things that disarms this situation more than anything is the bodhicitta characteristic of joy. That because, that usually these things are full of all kinds of antagonism and people can't wait to get there to have these fights. But if you go there with the attitude that I'm not going to fight, but I am going to exude joy, it's very disarming to them.
And it pisses her off.
Huh?
It just pisses her off.
Well, and then the other thing is the equanimity. The fourth bodhicitta quality of equanimity, that whether or not they are going to like it or not, I'm going to love them either way. I'm not going to change that. I'm not going to have attachment or aversion to those beings. And that applies to whether it's our brothers and sisters, our Dharma brothers and sisters, or it applies to people that, we know that want to have an argument or something like that.
So at some point, one has to show loving kindness to oneself as well, right? And I guess I struggle in the area of, doing things for the benefit of all sentient. I am all on board for that, up to the point that I am allowing myself to be harmed by people. And not taking proper care of myself. And so that's the balance I'm trying to strike.
Well, that's the wisdom of discriminating awareness. That's an example of that. and then knowing how to exercise that wisdom and knowing how to deal with the situation. And sometimes the best thing is withdrawal. When you don't know what to do, don't do anything. Just withdraw.
So what I've been doing has been just simply practicing being there with it and not being, and no attachment, no aversion, just being present with it. And when it gets to be too much, then I withdraw.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that was a practical application of that particular verse there. So now the next page, number 7, is aspiration to have virtuous teachers and to please them. May I always meet spiritual friends who long to be of true help to me and who teach me the good actions. Never will I disappoint them. So this is, being in a group like this. If we regard each other as our teachers, is a beautiful thing, is a wonderful thing. If we go in with the attitude that I'm the only one that knows anything, is certainly not going to be very helpful to maintain friendships and relationships and so on. And that's going to be revealed, and people are going to recognize that, and they're not going to want to be with you. You're not going to want to be with them. So to have virtuous teachers and to please them. So it also means to seek out people who are teachers, who are known teachers, whether they're lamas or they're lay people or something like that, but people that you have some degree of respect for, and maybe you can increase that respect. If anybody has any comment about this, just jump right in, please. So this one I think is fairly self-evident. Aspiration to see the Buddhas and serve them in person. May I always behold the Buddhas here before my eyes, and around them all their bodhisattvas, sons and daughters, without ever tiring throughout all the eons to come. May the offerings I make them be endless and vast. So this is interesting. And this was one reason why I took the time to start the conversation today with, what is Buddha? Are we meeting Buddhas every day? Are we meeting future Buddhas every day? Let's be optimistic and say, yes, that's at least the case. Everyone is a potential Buddha. So I want to honor them. I want to make offerings to them. Offerings, not necessarily that I'm giving them things, but I'm giving them my respect. I'm giving them my love. I'm giving them my bodhicitta. I'm dedicating my prayers to them and so on, my practices to them to strengthen them because they are doing good deeds. And if we're doing that for each other, you see, there's a dynamism there that strengthens the Sangha, that strengthens the group altogether. So, and it can also mean, to be surrounded with reminders in your home or whatever. And I know this is, something we could talk a lot about, is the different shrines that we might have in our home. The different altars that we might have, the different pictures that we have and so on. And the way in which we honor them by putting up flowers or lighting a candle or such things is a means to, what it's doing is making one mindful of the Buddha within themselves. The Buddha is not out here, the Buddha is within ourselves. So it's really a direct relationship to the Buddha within ourselves, that we're doing something with that Buddha to make that Buddha, to make yourself more aware of that Buddha within yourself. Another example are the clothes you wear. If you're going to be doing studies and practices, are you going to be wearing things that would be considered to be disrespectful, that you might consider to be disrespectful if people saw you doing this, but yet you'll do it by yourself when you can, because you don't have any respect for the Buddha? Or do you do it, out of respect for the Buddha because it gives you that sense of mindfulness, of appreciation, of honoring, that what that Buddha is, what that Buddha represents? Anybody got any comment about that? Okay.
Yeah,
Does that,
well,
yes, go ahead.
the first sentence, may I always behold the Buddhas here and before my eyes. And like you said, we all have the primordial nature. We are all Buddhas. Because of our obscurations, we do not know. We haven't realized it yet. That's why we are on the path to try to realize that. So when we see other Buddhas suffering, I think we need some suffering in our lives. It is a great teacher, suffering. It keeps us humbled. It keeps us focused on what needs to be done. If everything's going well, if everything is just great, we tend to get off course, off our path. You know, I don't know if I'm getting older, but every morning I get up, I have pains, shoulder, elbow, knee. I'm thankful for that. I truly am, you know. If I didn't have that little bit of pain every day, it'd be hard for me to relate to people that are older, that are always in pain, to show more compassion for them. So same with suffering and seeing suffering in our brothers and sisters, when we see that suffering in their face, to aspire to help them, you know. I mean, granted, maybe we're not prepared yet to completely help them, but saying a kind gesture, you know, saying it doesn't cost us anything to be kind and nice. Really doesn't cost a penny. But it almost seems a rarity these days. Everybody's so focused on themselves, you know. That's what I'd say.
Thank you. Adrian, you got your hand up?
Yeah. So my connection dropped for a second, but I think you mentioned something about wearing clothes in respect to the practices, in respect to the Buddhas and the altar that you might have in the house. That's something that you know, I was thinking about. But what would be your approach? Like, what is the difference between being respectful and having attachment towards these items?
Are you asking me?
Anybody?
I think it's a value that you are acting on, and if it's healthy, it's a value that may change over time. So what you think you can do now in this space and time, in a future space and time, may change because your values change. You may not appreciate, you know, being respectful and paying homage, or it may mean very casual things. You may have a very cavalier attitude towards things, but then later on, you may get more serious about it. Or it can go the other way.
I understand it's like a fine line between these two type of concepts. And I'm just trying to kind of like stay neutral, you know, just because I don't want to become too much attached to some of the things that we use in our practice. And it's kind of like, not that I'm disrespectful. So I'm not sure if I'm, you know, making my point across here. But there's that story again that of that monk, that the only thing that he had in his life was that offering bowl, but he didn't obtain Buddhahood because he was attached to that bowl. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this, right? The story. So that, I think that's kind of like what I'm trying to get to.
Well, You know, there's a similarity between you and me. And I don't know whether this is, you know, I used to be an astrologer. I used to do that. And I've got my rising sign is Aries. And whenever I walk into the room, it's like, here I am. and I'm always the first to say something, you know, to comment on something. And it's indicative of this Aries rising thing, you know. So I don't know if you've got the same thing, but I've noticed over the years that we've been doing this together and everything, whenever we have these kind of discussions, and I said, what do you think, you know, to anybody, you're usually the one who first says something. I'm not disparaging that at all. I'm saying I would do the same thing, you know? So it's, you know, so what that means to me is I'm always ready to be able to declare, okay, here I am and here's what I think. And now let's talk about it. So I'm always willing to try things and to do things without any kind of, you know, with just pure enjoyment. And I'm not trying to hold back. I'm not, you know, the opposite to this would be, I don't act on anything. I don't want to do anything because I'm afraid of giving myself away, revealing too much. You know, that somebody might think that I'm not worthy or something like that, or I may embarrass myself or something like that. And there have been times, you know, when I was a kid, I was like that. But then I grew to like myself more, and I said, oh, I can say what I like and enjoy it. So not everybody's going to be that extreme, but I'm just trying to make the point that sometimes you just got to jump in and do some things and see how it works, you know, try some of these things and see how it works. And sometimes they're really good things, and sometimes there are things that you need to discard. Anybody got a comment about that? Yes, Katie.
I actually asked Kempo this very question about the attachment thing, because I was going through situations where I would feel immense joy. I would be very happy, and then I would get scared because I would feel so much happiness and joy that I was afraid that my ego was too much involved. And he said that one way of applying the antidote to that is to make your attachment an offering. Meaning, okay, so the fear was that I was attached to the bliss, attached to the joy. And so then you make that an offering, or you dedicate that for all sentient beings. And it kind of relieved that pressure of that fear that would seem to accompany whatever joy or whatever happy feeling I was feeling at that time. And if I may also comment on the, may I always behold the Buddhas here before my eyes, in seeing everyone as a potential Buddha, also being a reflection of practice. I am applying that. I'm working on applying that in my daily life, as seeing everyone as the Buddha. And if there is an afflictive emotion, if there is some kind of, ooh, I'm uncomfortable, where is that coming from? And what can I do to neutralize that, or what can I learn from? Because absolutely, it's already been mentioned, but it's still true that we learn the most from our mistakes. And therefore, we also learn the most from the people who bring out those emotions in us. Because if we're always comfortable, then it's very easy to become complacent. And when one becomes complacent, then it's also easier to make mistakes in that situation. But then that could start the learning cycle again, right? So anyway, my whole point is that I genuinely try to use the people that I have encounters with as one, they are the Buddha, so treat them as I would like to be treated, And then also that it's a reflection of my practice. How is that interaction going and how could it be better? So that's what I have to offer to the conversation.
Well, that's really good. And I think expressing it as offerings, I think, is very healthy. That's very good. And there's even a note here about that, you know, practical offerings to the Sangha, that you're offering yourself, whatever it is, to the Sangha, I think is, if you treat everything as the Sangha, then that's, that goes to that point. Somebody had their hand up? Yes, Rebecca?
I just wanted to say, Katie, that was very helpful for me. Thank you. I appreciated that. And then I just wanted to add that, Lance, sometimes you will say, you know, the same thing is in Christianity and it's in Judaism and it's in Hinduism and it's blah, blah, blah. And that sometimes that, you know, makes me twitch a little bit, because I don't know that I think that those parallels are always present. But in this case, absolutely do. And as we're coming into the Jewish High Holy Days, there is a wonderful parallel between this seeing everyone as potentially being the Buddha and a Jewish concept of seeing everyone as created in the image of God, B'Tselem Elohim. And so, yay, I was very excited to find, I found one in the wild.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's move on to the next point here. Number 9, the aspiration to keep the Dharma thriving. May I maintain the sacred teachings of the Buddhas and cause enlightened action to appear. May I train to perfection in good actions and practice these in every age to come. So, you know, I think that literally it just means, you know, putting yourself out there, doing it, you know, getting it out there. If your motivation is right, you know, that's one of the things about, you know, what's your intention? If you have good intention, but maybe for some reason or another, it doesn't, the causes and conditions aren't exactly right, and it kind of gets misconstrued, does it become a negative karma for you? If you have good intention for it to be a positive thing, but it got mixed up somehow, it's that motivation, it's that intention that saves the day. So to keep the Dharma thriving, to keep the teachings going, to keep things moving, to keep awareness there, to keep mindfulness there in your mind, in your life, and, you know, hopefully that other people are going to recognize it. So I think that's fairly easy to understand. Number 10 is aspiration to acquire inexhaustible treasure. As I wander through the states of samsaric existence, may I gather inexhaustible merit and wisdom, and so become an inexhaustible treasury of noble qualities, of skill, discernment, samadhi, and liberation. So knowing that, you know, if we're acting on these things, if we're doing these things, we become the treasury, we become the repository, we become the embodiment of all this wisdom. And even if it wasn't good, if it didn't work out the way we wanted, it had a negative reaction, but we fixed it, at least now we have that treasury of knowledge of knowing when you do this and that, and the causes and conditions aren't quite there, you're going to have a bad reaction, and you know how to fix it. So that's a good thing too. Somebody said earlier, we learn by our mistakes. I think Tom said that. We learn more from our mistakes than we learn by, you know, if we did everything perfectly all the time. So these are wisdom jewels. You know, I think there's been a few illustrations where we've shown that there are these collections, these mound of jewels, and we call them wisdom jewels. So these are the results of those engagements, getting involved. You know, yourself, getting involved with other people, getting involved with Dharma, and so on. You're cultivating, you're bringing these, you're discovering these wisdom jewels. So
I have a comment.
Yes.
Speaking of parallels, this sounds very similar to storing up treasure in heaven from the Christian tradition, the notion of seeking virtue and goodness and all good things, and that's where your treasure is in those sorts of things. It's really use of the same word treasure here. And I'm thinking about the previous verse about keeping the Dharma thriving. This, stanza number 10 is really about aspiring to thrive as a human being in goodness, in all things that are good. It mentions skill. That would include all sorts of skills that do good things. Anything that's rightful livelihood, being skillful in rightly livelihood and right actions involves skill. So developing skills is part of this too.
Sure. And do we allow ourselves to get to a point where there are certain things that we won't do because it's too far below us? I won't do the dishes. I won't take the trash out. Practical things that somebody else can do, but I'm not going to do. But do we allow ourselves to be able to keep those skills and to do those skills and to once in a while, or do the dishes or whatever. In the film, For the Benefit of All Beings, the story about Gajah Rinpoche, and they make a point of showing him in his home of how he takes care of things in his bathroom and the way he does his towel and all this kind of stuff and his toothpaste and all. I mean, it's just simple stuff. A lot of people would just, throw it down and not care anything about it, but he was very mindful about what he was doing and so on. And he was walking into into what must have been a shrine room or somebody's house or something, and there was all a bunch of shoes that people had taken off, when they go into the building, and they were all just disarrayed. And he got down and matched up all the pairs and lined them all up. You think, most high lamas of the caliber of Gajah Rinpoche would do something like that?
It's all opportunity for creativity. If I have an attitude of, I got to get the dishes done and I wish somebody else would do it, it's beneath me, I'm really missing so much there. Instead, if I go and do the dishes and there's an attitude of, how can I have creativity and skill in doing them? It's part of thriving instead of just kind of being a dullard.
It's a small gift to others also that they might not notice, bringing a small bit of order to their day when they left a little bit of disorder.
It's also living in the present and just kind of seeing the things that need to be done. Just do it. Go with the flow.
What do you think about people are engaged in conversations and, and maybe they're, making comments in a venue like this that we're talking and everything. And somebody that always has to have the last word, or somebody always has to correct everybody or something like that, instead of let people say what they have to say and do it. Is that like straightening up the shoes, or is it just, letting people say what they need to say, or do you think that people need to be corrected all the time?
It can be like that. It's a matter of how much you're attached to that. If somebody comes out and be like, from the shrine room and says, hey, the shoes need to be like that, don't touch them, I'll be like, okay, all right, well, I thought I would help. But yeah, I think you're absolutely correct, Lance. If you have to have the last word for every conversation that you have with everyone, then that says a lot about your ego.
So not to have the last word, but just to point out here, this last sentence of that verse, it says, of skill and discernment, of being able to judge this, and that goes again to the wisdom of discriminating awareness, what to get involved in, how to get involved in it, to have that wisdom of discriminating awareness. And this is why Amitabha, the Buddha Amitabha, is the most accessible of those wisdom deities, those wisdom Buddhas, those meditation Buddhas, because that discriminating wisdom really comes before everything else. Everything else falls in line. If you don't have that discriminating awareness, then the other things can not be fulfilled or fulfilled in error. Okay, so the next point is number 11. So this has this number of subheadings after that. So number 11 is the aspiration to the different methods for entering into the good actions. What are the methods for entering in good actions? And you can see these good actions are everyday engagements. Some of them are some high level things, but basically it's just how to be a spiritual person in everyday life. So number 1, or A, it says seeing the Buddhas and their pure realms. So how different methods for entering into good actions. First, we need to see the Buddhas and their pure realms. So this goes to the question that I think Rebecca asked, well, who is Amitabha and what is Sukhavati? So by understanding Amitabha and understanding Sukhavati as the Buddha field, that's what this is. So it says, in a single atom, may I see as many pure realms as atoms in the universe. And in each realm, Buddhas beyond all imagining, encircled by all their bodhisattva heirs. Along with them, may I perform the actions of enlightenment. Along with them, may I perform the actions of enlightenment. So this to me, what this means to me is I'm looking at 10, 12 people right now, and I'm seeing 10 or 12 different Buddha fields. And it's not up to me to be able to say, well, your Buddha field's better than somebody else's or something like that. It doesn't matter. Everybody else has their own thing that they're doing. And if they are pure, then that's all that we, want from each other is our purity. The second stanza to this says, and so in each direction everywhere, even on the tip of a hair, may I see an ocean of Buddhas, all come in past, present, and future, in an ocean of pure realms. And throughout an ocean of eons, may I enter into enlightened action in each and every one. So may I be a Buddha in all these Buddha fields. If our purity is there, we can move between these Buddha fields without any boundaries. So what do you think about that?
Just a quick question, technical question. So how important it is to have the level of details for each of those Buddhas when you visualize them in their pure realm? I guess you get better and better with it, but
well, you can answer the essence of the question. What do you think?
Yeah, it's important.
Huh?
Yeah, I think it is important to know all the details, know all the implements, to know everything what it means.
Well, let me ask you this then. Do you need to know all the details about me to be able to say whether I'm a good person or not, or anybody else here? Or can you just take it at face value and say, well, this person right now is exuding all good qualities that I aspire to have myself, and I don't need to know all those details.
Well, what I've learned, in practice, at least with me, is that, in the beginning, before doing a practice, I like to get all those details down. And then, as I'm becoming more and more familiar, I don't need to, you can just like go into that state, I guess, and basically have an experience, a feel, a glimpse of what that is. And, it's just kind of like merge, sync in.
I don't think this is asking us to see all the detail. I think it's asking us to to note the level of detail where we can recognize that there are a nearly infinite number of Buddhas in every square micron. Not that we know what their implements are or what they're dressed like. I think it's about seeing the Buddhas, about recognizing that they fill all space. And even in the space between our Buddhas, there's Buddhas. So I think it's less about visual seeing and about getting it.
Anybody else got a comment about that? All right. Well, then it's a matter of, this is why we read this King of Aspiration prayers every day, to be able to have more experience with that. Because Michael's point is very valid, and Adrian has a point too, but I think it's a point of view. What is the point of view that either Michael's coming from or Adrian's coming from? I think maybe Adrian was coming from, the Buddhas as the meditational deities, those, the yidams, those that we are learning from, and being able to learn about, their details and what they're representing. And I think Michael was coming from the perspective of Vajradhara. Those details don't mean anything. It's just the essence of the love. It's just the essence of the bodhicitta. Maybe I'm wrong in seeing it that way, but that's how I see it. So in each direction, everywhere, even on the tip of a hair, may I see an ocean of Buddhas, all common, past, present, and future, in an ocean of pure realms. And throughout an ocean of eons, may I enter into enlightened action in each and every one. It's water being poured into water, to use Gotchen Rinpoche's phrase that he uses all the time. So the aspiration to different methods for entering into good actions. Now, listening to the speech of the Buddhas. What are these Buddhas saying? What do they represent? What are their activities and so on? Each single word of a Buddha's speech, that voice with its ocean of qualities, bears all the purity of the speech of all the Buddhas, sounds that harmonize with the minds of all living beings. May I always be engaged with the speech of the Buddhas. So it's recognizing yourself, that wisdom, that you are Buddha, that potential is with you. Let that come up. Let that be what you are trying to live as. I don't know that needs any more explanation. Except
Lance, on this particular one, I remember getting a teaching about 20, 25 years ago about the Buddha speech or sutras. When the Buddha would give a teaching, his teaching would be so where whoever is listening to the speech would receive what they needed. And they would go into a samadhi, into a meditation, into a deep, deep meditation. And many, many would be enlightened during the speech, or during the talk of the Buddha. So when they translate a lot of these teachings put it into writings, that essence is not there. Yes, you can read the beautiful flowery words, but when the Buddha spoke and gave the teachings, it was, we all transcended to the next level, to the next where we needed to be. So it's very, very important. You know, whoever did receive the teachings directly from the Buddha. You know, so since we don't have, I mean, we do have that still now. There are still Buddhas out there teaching us. We just don't recognize them. But we have the sutras and the tantras. We try to get as much out of those as we can. And but like Adrian said, we can't be attached to anything or anyone. Just like a raft, once we use it to cross the ocean or across the river, we don't keep carrying that raft on our back because we're thankful for the raft. We leave it there for somebody else to use.
Is it also, you know, trusting in the system, trusting in the Dharma, and trusting in the lamas, the teachers, the gurus, and what their intention is, and that they are, you know, they are passing on, it's through them. They are the emanation body of the Buddha. You know, at least for that time and space that they're sitting on the throne and they're giving us teachings, and that we're seeing them, we're recognizing them as the Buddha, and hearing that speech be actualized with their voice and so on is coming through to us, but it's coming into our ears. But more important is what's coming from their heart into our heart. Do we trust in that?
Yes, if there's enough merit and wisdom there. I mean, you have to have the merit. You can have all the wisdom in the world. Without the merits, it's not going to come to fruition. But if you have the merits and the wisdoms there, one sound of one part of a speech is all that we need to be enlightened.
Yeah, it says in some of the practices we do, all you need is one word and you're there. Just the essence, just the essence of the meaning, and you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave it here for tonight, and we'll start on page 5 next time. And so I hope this is helpful. And the king of aspirations of good actions. Anybody got any questions or comments before we do our dedication?
Just thank you, Lance, and everybody else.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Adrian, can you do the dedication, please?
Yes. The Karma prayer.
Yes, whatever you say. You're the umse tonight.
For the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may May I and all sentient beings quickly attain, surpass, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, rude Lama, lineage Lamas, divine assembly of Idams, and assembly of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yoginis, and Dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate root of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth, as Shavaka or Pradika Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstruct us and harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons, experience happiness and separate from suffering, swiftly attain and surpass, perfect, complete, and precious Buddha. By the power of this faster virtue, may I benefit all beings, my body, speech, and mind. May the benefits of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very lifetime. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyful and happily in the great luminosity of the mind, such in the pervading clarity of Dharma. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
Om, ah, hum. Om, ah, hum. Om, ah, hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. Thank you all very much. Next week is Labor Day. Should we take a break next week and start and come back on the 13th then?
Sounds good.
Okay, so our next 101 meeting will be the 13th. I'll send out a message to remind everybody, but we'll continue then. Thank you all very much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
No, it's
Thanks,
just
Lan.
the week is starting, isn't it? Have a good week.
One day is the same as the next.
Okay, thank you.